All right, so today we're going to start a little bit early. I believe we're holding in Sif Tes, talking about the Ori Miklot, City of Refuge of the month of Elul, which is in the words of Torah. Person finds refuge, the words of Torah, absorb a person, and protects a person to a protected space in the month of Elul. Let's bring up the text. Okay, so we're holding Sif Tes, I believe that's page 9. Yeah, so we're holding the 10th, the ninth paragraph, Tes, page 9. Yesh Lahitziv, the Rebbe adds, Odayik, and to point out as follows. This that it says, Me'nayin l'dibur Torah shem koltin, how do we know that the words of Torah absorb a person, take a person in? Shnemer be'esbetzer b'midbar, because it says this is the city in the Midbar, or the area in the Midbar called Betzer, but then it says Vizosa Torah, and we connect the Ori Miklat to Torah, that the Torah is like a city of refuge. Shematigim Yakosev Gam Tevis Midbar, that they also add that the word Betzer is a city that's in the desert. They could have removed the word Betzer, the word Midbar, desert, without pointing out the word of the Midbar, because it's not important where the city of refuge is. That there's a city of refuge called Betzer. It happens to be that city is in the desert. And then it says V'zos Torah, meaning to say that Torah is like a city of refuge. Meaning the point is that specifically we mentioned the word desert, Bamidbar. Why? To show that the words of Torah even take a person and create a protective space for the person, even whilst that person is in a spiritual desert. Like we learned before, there's the idea of Malach Masada, the kings in the field, but it doesn't go as far as the desert. Desert's a place that's not inhabitable for humans. Well, Magdama, the Rebbe explains. When you come to an American Jew, and you tell that Jew, about the existence of the Torah. Shayel, so the Jew asks back. Obviously, an American wants to know what you're selling, right? What you're giving. Torah, this Torah, how long does it exist? You answer, about 3,300 years. So the person responds, the American Jew responds in wonder, in Cain, this is an old history book. It's nothing to do with me now. Ancient history, the Rebbe writes in English. It's ancient history. Mahi mamshech lishol. Torah is ice. So this person says, okay, so the Torah is 3,300 years ago. It's ancient history, but what is it? Unless you tell the American Jew, the Torah shows a person how one behaves. Meaning, the Varikir comes in the morning, when you wake up, the first thing is you have to wash your hands. After you wash your hands with negavaser, first you go to the synagogue to show. With the 10 batlanim, that's a concept of the 10 people that daven in a shul. So you could have a congregation. So he says, one second, Tefillah mamshech lishol, that's okay, so prayer. How long does this prayer take? Not so long. Only we tell the American Jew, 30 minutes. Goes to show you that 30 minutes is sufficient time. No, okay, so 30 minutes out of 24 hours. So it's 1/48th of your day. Okay. Afterwards, the American Jew asks, what do you do after you pray for 30 minutes? After we tell them, Rebbe, so the Rebbe says, and you have to be connected to the Rebbe. Can't just finish davening. After davening, there's the daily Tehillim, divided by the month, by the day, the month divided by the day. Well, okay, fine. So we say Tehillim. What do you do after davening and Tehillim? He continues to ask. When we tell him afterwards, first thing is you have to have a shear. right? The Beis HaKnesses is the Beis HaMedrash. So what does the American Jew say? The Rebbe says, terrible. Oy, terrible. He doesn't want to subscribe to this. I know who he says. I said, man, waste of time. It's a waste of time. All this. No, what happens after this horrible waste of time? The American Jew asks. It's time for breakfast. Pastrachos is a reference to breakfast, bread and morning bread. It's important to eat proper breakfast, like the Rebbe says. It protects the person. It's preventative for any kind of diseases. And you know how important the breakfast is. Trying to see 62. Says the Gemara Gavab Kama. So he says, what kind of stories are you telling me? What kind of business is that? What kind of business is that? And he asks in question. 3,300 years. Because today things have evolved, things have changed, information has changed. You tell me what we have to do, and we have to eat breakfast because the Torah Gemara says about Kama. This is the scheduling. This is all. What kind of business is this? Okay, all right. He asks. She goes afterwards. Okay, eat breakfast because the Gemara says you have to eat breakfast. Okay, what now? Am I free to do what I like? Okay, they say yes. You can go to your job, to your business. You have to be careful not to steal, not to steal other people's business. Don't slander. You have to give tidings. And the holidays and the Sabbath, the business has to be closed. And even during the week, you have to break in the middle of your work in meeting them business, right in the middle of the heat of the business. Go back to the synagogue or to the local minyan. Again with the 10 people of the minyan. You have to have mincha, especially in the winter. You can't wait till afterwards. Comes night, you have to daven the evening prayer. After Marv, then you can eat supper. The Rebbe says, and after all the troubles, he says, now I'm totally free. I did everything. What's now? Can I watch television? Can I go to the movie? The Rebbe is talking Pasha to the sinful American Jew of 1950. The Sachik bridge, can I play bridge, right? Play cards. I can't eat about light. They say no. That the night was created for easy study. What's the Talmud? How long does the Talmud exist? 1900 years later. There was the final people of the Gemara, which is Ravina and Ravashi. Shesidra Gemara, they organized the Talmud. There it says that night is for studying Torah, not for bridge and television movies. You have to say the Shema before you go to sleep. Make the evaluation how the day went. And here's what it means to be a Jew. Torah is 3,300 years ago, and it's in the morning. He has to go to shul, and he has to say Tehillim, and he has to have a shir, and then he goes to business. He has to go to mincha. He has to go for Mariv, and he has to learn at night. It says the bottom line is Judaism is not for me. Keep his business. You want me? There's no way I'm going to be able to do business in this kind of environment and scheduling. The Rebbe says a person could say, if a person is alone in such a desert, it's a spiritual desert. How could you be in the desert to be careful? Not to be stung or bitten by a snake, serpent, or scorpion. Not only that, and how can you go into you yourself have to be out there, and you yourself have to be careful of the snakes, serpent, and scorpion. Then you have to go affect that on the next person. But mine was the answer is that's what we have from Avram. Which is again the Rebbe integrated what was in this week's Likutei Torah. Avram was the first. He was a lone soldier. Shnikar Avram Ivri. He was called Avram from the Ivri, the Hebrew. But the Ivri also means from the word Abram, the other side. Hashem shekol ha'olam kuli me'ever echad, hu me'ever echad. The whole world was in one way of thinking, and Avram was totally in the opposite way of thinking. He was a lone soldier. That's why it says the betzer that's in the midbar, this is the Torah, to teach us. Even when a person finds that they're in the desert. Through Torah, Betzer also means a city of refuge. You could have a refuge, you could have a protected space. Betzer also means from the word protected, with these walls and doors and bridges that protects you from the outside world, even if you're finding yourself in the desert. That protects you, a wall that protects you, you not to get affected by the environment of the desert. With and doors, and the bridge that comes down every once in a while, and the gates that open every once in a while. The better al midbar, so you can go from your city of refuge, and you should be able to influence the desert, but not vice versa. But of course, you have to have the guards by the gates. They determine when, how long if you open the gates. Who could be from the city of security out to the desert? And who can you take from the desert inside to the city, to the fortress? Through this, we could be effective as tachlis the betzer midbar. That in the midbar we have betzer, we have a fortress. Not only does the fortress stay complete, that the fortress affects the desert. They're not understanding the fact that the desert is a place that person doesn't belong there. Will fulfill the verse that says, "You make a desert into a pond of water, into a lake." Means to turn the desert into a place of green. The prophecy, which is basically something that we've seen today, Baruch Hashem and Yisrael, the desert was turned into green. The Rebbe says, however, when you want to use the Torah to be a city of refuge for a person who brought their soul, even if it's b'shoigig, because a Jew has a ratzon, like we said, always for Hashem. Yeshne tonight, to have that protection is a condition. Doesn't say just v'zayis Torah. It's not enough that this is the Torah. This is the Torah that was given to us by Moshe. Here we kick into the strongest kashrus. You have to remember where the Torah comes from. Moshe gave it to us. You want to be protected from the Goyal Adam, which is the Yetzer Hara, which wants your blood, wants your chayis, wants your vitality. Who's Satan, who Yetzer Hara, who Malchabavis? It's all the same thing. Satan, the evil inclination, the angel of death. They want their Goyal Adam. They want your blood. They want the vengeance. To just say, I'm going to do it, Shulchan Aruch says that's not enough to protect you. They're clubbing there because the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, which is smarter in some ways than you, could manipulate the person's thinking, the seichel, the person's intellect. We know that desire makes a person think differently. When you want something, you justify it. And you can give a good rationale for it because you're smart. You don't want to be a person who says, I'm weak. So you try to justify it, right? If people just have the intellectual honesty to say, I'm weak. I know I'm wrong. I'm weak. People don't want to do that. So they manipulate the narrative. That the Yetzer Hara can manipulate to make you think you're doing everything according to Torah, and at the same time you're not. Like the Ramban, the Rebbe quotes this Ramban many times. You could be an abomination, even according to the laws of Torah, right? You use the Torah to, right? You find that you see that a lot, right? You walk over a podcast, a person could quote you 1,000 things, but you see the person, everything that's coming out of the person's mouth is a novel, is an avela, the avela is a dead thing, dead animal. It's an abomination, because that's what it is. The Eitzel is that. So the answer to this is not enough to the Torah. You have to have this is Torah's Moshe. Ahavas HaTorah, Moshe shows you how you're supposed to do the Torah. And especially the Moshe and the Rebbe of the generation. The Moshe of our generation. We have to act according to the Moshe of our generation, the Rebbe, in everything that we do. The Rebbe gives an example. And again, when the Torah comes to studying Torah, this is the Torah of Moshe. This is the Torah of Moshe. You can't just learn Torah casually. You have to learn it with proper God-fearing manner. But also day, and how do you do that? Hakdamas Tefillah. You have to daven first. Galashon Chazal. Beis HaKnesses is the base of medrash, from the synagogue to the yeshiva. Tefillah v'achach Torah. First you daven, which gives you your Shemaim. Then you daven. Then you learn Torah. Shabar la'achar Hakdama. And this itself comes after. You can't be mispal like the Alter Rebbe brings down in Kutei Torah. The preparation we have. By day keep a rise of Moshe, Torah's Moshe, when due to a Moshe wants us. Then we're able to pass through. It's a midbar, the desert, it's better by midbar, the fortification within the desert. Moshe, the Nazi Menachish, son of Akrav, knew yourself to be protected and protect others from snakes, serpents, and scorpions. The Rebbe says, this is again, this is a Fabringen of the early years of the 1950s, before the Rebbe accepted leadership. Very skashrus and very chassidish. This is the Chassidim Fabringen, a little. The Rebbe says, is man in the days of the war, Rebbe means World War II. There were some people of Chassidim that were in a situation they couldn't, I think it was Shanghai, but I'm not sure, that they couldn't communicate to the Rebbe, not by telegram, what have you, telephone, but not by telegram even. They show Ahavas Das of to find out what the Rebbe wanted about how they should travel, what if they should travel, etc. So what do they do? They don't know what to do. They can't ask the Rebbe. So they had a rule. The knowing rule, the Rebbe says. You don't know, you can't ask the Rebbe. So in such a situation, you ask a worldly Jew, person who thinks they're, the person of the world, and do exactly opposite what he tells you to do. Yeah, you tell him your situation, and he comes from the approach of the world. He's a Yid, he could be from, he's religious, but he's coming from a worldly approach. So then they did the exact opposite. By days, and this was a life-saving method. That by not listening to the worldly person, everything worked out to the best. This is how we continue today. When the Rebbe is still, maybe not physically with us, but spiritually definitely with us, we're skashers and when we're connected, I love, to the Rebbe. As Mashiach to the Mashiach comes, and even after Mashiach comes, of course, we're going to still be connected to the Rebbe. The Rebbe says there's those, so they have these dreams and visions, and have this idea, we think, when Mashiach comes, there's going to be another Rebbe when Mashiach comes. And we see the Rebbe says, when Mashiach comes, we're going to have our Rebbe. Wir wollen haben unsere Rebbe. The Rebbe says in Yiddish. We're going to still have our Rebbe. The same Rebbe, meaning to say, I think the Rebbe is saying it's not just that it's going to be the same person, but it's going to be the same relationship. Not that the Rebbe became Mashiach, and now it's like, it's too distant from us. It's going to be the same Rebbe with the same Chassidim. The Rebbe Sipeli, the Rebbe says that the Friedrich Rebbe told him, his father, that means the previous Rebbe, the Rebbe's father was Rebbe. The father, the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Rebbe Chabad, when he put away his afikoimen, which is that part that sometimes kids steal, right? He would put the people of the family together with his afikoimen from when they broke the matzahs until they had to eat it at the end of the meal. He asked why. So the Rebbe Rashab said, afikoimen is a memory, is the way we commemorate the Paschal sacrifice. It was eaten in congregation. Family eat it together, right? You couldn't eat a sheep yourself. So too the Mashiach comes. that the family stays together. If you're connected to the Rebbe, now you can be connected to the Rebbe when Mashiach comes. Rebbe adds, we're just going to finish this Sicha. Oh, wow, this is a long one. Okay, we're going to go, it's almost over, so we're going to go a little further, maybe go a little bit further, and then we'll stop. The Rebbe said, Yesh Lahisa B'Kirat. Gam Milashim Pneumius, sorry, Yesh Lahisa B'Kirat. But Beer B'Hamshach Kosa, this is what it says, Zaysa Torah Shesam Moshe Fnei B'nei Yisrael. He put it, the literal translation is he presented it to the Jewish people, Fnei before them, but the Fnei is the only Moshe Pneumius. He made the Torah internal with the Jewish people. Appears, what does that mean? The Zaysa Torah Shesam Moshe Fnei B'nei Yisrael, that Moshe put the Torah in a way of Pneumius to the Jewish people, Moshe Shtadl. Moshe made it his business. Moshe he gave himself over. They're lying in the Pneumius to Bnei Yisrael to get to the depth of the Jewish person. Everyone knows how hard it is and how guarded we are, not to let anyone into our inner space, into our Pneumius. This understood. She's cautious or Moshe. What does it mean to be Mekusha, connected to Moshe? If Moshe wants to get to your Pneumius, you have to go to the Pneumius of the Rebbe. Pneumius to Moshe, you have to get to the Pneumius of Moshe Rabbeinu, the Pneumius of the Rebbe. My heart says to me, like we say in Elul, in chapter 27, seek my inner core, the inner core of Hashem. When you reveal the core of your soul, you get to the inner core of Hashem, like we learned in the Maimer last year. The same thing is the relationship with Moshe and the Rebbe of our generation. He's the middle that connects. Maybe a person only took the external of the Rebbe. That we have to. We have to take the internal of the Rebbe. If you had a relationship, an internal relationship with the Rebbe until now, you have to take the internal of the internal. Yeah, we're going to make a dash for it. I'm going to finish the talk, even though it's Chai Elul, and then like this we'll have time for Nesi'im, which is next week. And we would like to get a mimer in before Rosh Hashanah. There's like this. We have a special empowerment when it comes to Chai Elul. Like we said before, Chai Elul, the 18th of Elul is the birthdays of the Baal Shem Tov and Alter Rebbe. Nesi'im, they were all the Rebbes of their generations, and the Nasi and the leader of their generation. And whoever is the Rebbe in his time is the one who's filling the place of the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe. Therefore, if you're connected to the Rebbe, even if the Rebbe passed away and you started your relationship with the Rebbe after Gimel Tammuz, you can't be without a Rebbe. So by being connected to the Rebbe, even if you started your relationship with the Rebbe after he passed away, you should know you're connected all the way up to the Baal Shem Tov and Alter Rebbe. Because the Rebbe is in their place. Therefore, Chai Elul, it comes to 18th veil, becomes the birthdays of the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe, and therefore their koiches, like we said in the beginning of the talk, is very strong. On a person's birthday, their mazel is goiver. They have a strength of their inyanim. What matters to them they're very powerful with it on those days specifically. Is man so it's an appropriate time, an auspicious time. The chizik is kashrus. One should strengthen one's connection to the Rebbe. And to those that filled the shoes of the Baal Shem Tov and the Admir Zok and Alter Rebbe. It becomes the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, the wise one. Could come in now. Like again, the Yetzer Hara has one agenda: throw you off your game. So he'll do it anyway. He does it any way he can. So he'll come in the disguise of humility, to say to the person, Chai Elul, such a great day as Chai Elul, the 18th of Elul, the highest of Elul, the birthdays of the Baal Shem Tov, Amud Ha'or, the pillar of light, Amud Ha'esh, and the pillar of fire. You think you're connected to Chai Elul, you know who you are. So the Yetzer Hara comes like an honor. Humility. When it comes to a worldly person, a non-chassid, even if he goes into a yechidus and asks the Rebbe for an advice, Milas Rebbe doesn't really understand who the Rebbe is. Mahu Rebbe, what's a Rebbe? He also has an ego. Even if you know that the Rebbe is maybe a little smarter than you, so therefore you're going to ask him his advice. You don't look like the Rebbe is totally out of your league. Again, he realized if I really applied myself, I can also be a Rebbe as great as this Rebbe. I'm a smart person. If I have a good night's rest, I wake up with a clear head. You say, I put some effort, I can also be like as great as the Rebbe. The Mishnah says, if I try, you'll find. I can come as great as the Rebbe. Look at the first Chazal. It says clearly in the Chazal, right? If I really tried, I could come like Ahavas Yisrael. Especially me, I'm so smart. But a person's a chassid, and comes the Yitzhar in the way of Anivas, and Prat chassid Chabad, and you're Chabad chassid, Shiyadei, which you really know, Ma Rebbe, what's the Rebbe? So you know the Rebbe's way out of there, nothing like just stam a person. He's in a Neshama Klolis. And the opposite, you know, you're good at nothing. Yidei shiftless atzmi, how low you are. You do proper cheshbon nefesh. You don't have the ego of the veltisher person, of the non-chassid. A chassid doesn't find it smart. It's not a big idea to fool yourself. You do a sefer. He once asked the students of the Maggid, how does he know something? I think it was about a Gili Eliyahu. The Heshiv Shisham Zem Eliyahu. I saw an idea. He said he heard from Eliyahu Navi. Maggid said, I heard this from Elijah the prophet. That's pretty good. It's a pretty good source, right? Everyone was satisfied. They asked him how he knows. He said Elijah the prophet told him. They didn't doubt if he met that he had constant relations with Elijah the prophet, so that was good enough. The Rebbe didn't accept that answer. I hear what you're saying. I hear that he's telling his own Rebbe, the Maggid, who they asked, how does he know? He says, Elijah the prophet. Everyone else is quiet. That's good enough. The Rebbe says, prove it. Not prove that Eliyahu Navi said that. But show me a proof in the Torah. Show me a mocker. Not Eliyahu is not good enough. Maggid said, because the Rebbe came from Lithuania, that's a Litvisha kind of idea. I need to see exactly what it says. So therefore, Shaul asked me because he has to have the truth. So he asked, what connection do I have to Chai Elul? How can I even think about strengthening my skashas to the Rebbe? I know how distant I am from the Rebbe. Most lived in the Yitzhar he keeps on convincing the person about the Baal Shem Tov movement. Man Mechsidus is brought down. Shnasham Baal Shem Tov Yor V'El Mazel Lahar is Klal Yisrael. Baal Shem Tov came down to wake up the whole Jewish people. Mishinasim from their sleep. That we were all in slumber. Segulin is Shilachshu Loi Ba'azni Shemaya. And one of the things we know that if someone whispers the name of the Baal Shem Tov in someone's ear, it would wake them up. Baz Yakitz Misalfus, and they would wake up from their faint. Lachish Beznei Mishmam Shenikri Yisrael. Call the person Yisrael. Call to say the Baal Shem Tov. The Rebbe says a side note. There's a story like this about that happened to the Frierdiker Rebbe. That someone who fainted, he said, say the name of the Rebbe, Frierdiker Rebbe, I guess Yosef Yitzchak. Shmei shel Rebbe, Ozen shel Isha shis Alpha, but in the ear of a woman who fainted. And she woke up from her faint because the Rebbe's neshama is a neshama klali, so can wake up every Jew. How did the Rebbe in Brooklyn wake up a woman? She'd never seen him before. And Mishum Shmasi Shal Rebbe, he'd seen her chayes the Klal Yisrael because the Rebbe is connected to every single individual Jew, even if she'd never seen him before. So therefore, the Yitzhar continues. The Rebbe says, if the Baal Shem Tov is the way, the gateway for the soul of every Jew, okay, so he says, I have a connection to the Baal Shem Tov. Because Baal Shem Tov is a mamish of a neshama klalis in such a way that's connected. His whole purpose is coming down was to connect to every Jew. Admor Zakim, you say I'm going to be connected to the Alter Rebbe. The Yeshua Chadasha, he was a new soul that never came down to the world. The Lake of Shar Kol Hashem is not like any other soul. She was Ma'aneinu in our times. Every other soul has been down many times, is circulated. The Alter Rebbe's soul that never came down. The Baal Shem Tov made a special meal when the Alter Rebbe's soul came down. That the Arizal says that today all the souls are circulated. It means that they're reincarnations. So when you see in Neshama Chadash, right, the position of Anapali said, he's shaking from a Neshama Chadash when he saw the Alter Rebbe, or see the position of Anapali or the Shpala Zayda. He says, how can I connect myself to the Alter Rebbe? But mine was the answer is that's all the Yitzhar with all these calculations. By this God the minus and Rebbe, how great the Rebbe is, shiftless Mamad the Matzave, and how low you are. Never give up. Even when the month of El, the month of compassion. The Rebbe is not saying that your evaluation is wrong, but your conclusion is wrong. You do what's known, what's Chaydish up here, Marshall, based on an example of Melech. The Shekoidim boil the year before he comes into the city. The people of the city go out to cross to meet him. They greet him in the field. Then everyone is able, permitted. The Hakupan of to meet the king. He accepts them all. He shows them a radiant face. Like the Alter Rebbe says, in the palace there's limitations. You have to have permission. Only the selected few. The kings in the field, you could be like a family member. Mechut means married in. We're related by marriage. The Rebbe says the bottom line is, this is a very powerful ending that Rebbe ends for bringing. Even if you find yourself in the field, and that's the truth. It's a place you shouldn't be. It's a place where animal feed is being grown. Nefesh talks about the animal soul. This is the place of Esav, the man in the field. Comes the month of El, the Rebbe comes to you. Now the Rebbe is putting the Rebbe in the idea of Melech Besada. Because he's in the field now. The Rebbe is not angry at you. That you made bothered him. To go to meet you in your low place of the field. The Rebbe accepts you with the face, with the radiant face, with joy, and that simcha is ma'atik dinim, breaks all kind of judgments. You do a sipur ma'adim mizakim v'hamaser, that through looking you could break. Rebbe bar sadeh, Rashi kol mish ratz l'hakol panav, you could meet the Rebbe. L'kulam ayim din muchanim l'hakol panav, and we're ready to meet him. L'yitzrichim afilu l'idach, if you don't have to push. When Rebbe atzmi mekabas kulam, he meets everyone the same from the office mashpil l'chum, he gives everyone brachas. Tzrichim rak lois liyas tipish, don't be a fool. Lutzik and cry out to the Rebbe, Abba Hatzileni, Father, save me. They told him to in your flies. We're not asking you to do great things. But one heartful cry, Abba, Abba Hatzileni, Father, Father, save me. Abba, Abba Rachmani, Father, Father, have compassion on me. Then surely, I'm to my beloved and his desires to me. God's desires only for the Jewish people. What's God's entire desire of everything? Only to give good and blessings to the Jewish people. The main blessing, the complete redemption. The Rebbe is going to take us Likras Mashiach. Amen. That's how the Rebbe finishes the Fabringen of Chai Elul. Shekoyach for joining, and have a wonderful day. We'll see what we're going to learn next. If we're going to learn something this week, but definitely going to start in the Tzavim next week, and maybe a Maimer for Rosh Hashanah.